Welcome to BIA, Canada's top black media provider. Whether you're looking for shows on fashion, art, music, or simple lifestyle, we bring you the best content the black community in Canada has to offer and so much more. And better yet, do you have an idea for a project you'd like us to help you with? We provide equipment, studio, and office space, as well as a team of dedicated individuals to help you bring those ideas to life. So don't wait. Check out our new website at biamedia.ca for more information on how to contact us and start creating today. BIA Media, your way.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here. And as always, on most Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Black Canada Talking is a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them.
Guinea could not afford to participate, but at the last minute came in because there's always issues of money and corruption.
That guy gets to go to jail because he doesn't have the money and he doesn't have the status that Bill Cosby gets. And Bill Cosby gets to get off, not just for the money as well, advancing age, etc.
I'm just going to echo a few things you're mentioning. We know that the Olympics, the Tokyo Committee and also the Olympic Committee was against any protests.
God bless, peace well, keep the faith, and remember, walk good. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020, Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And I host the only online conversation in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by DAD, Central Canada's national fatherhood organization. And through that collaboration, by the way, I've been able to reach out to, directly or indirectly, over 100,000 fathers in the world this year. So I am fired up about that. It's Sunday afternoon, December 5th. We're broadcasting live on multiple online platforms, but what we're broadcasting is called Black Canada Talking. And Black Canada Talking is a online conversation where we get Black Canadians to give their POVs and their takes of stories that are important to them, whether national or international, home, around the corner, around the block, back on the block. So we're very blessed to have three of our panelists, and one of our panelists is her last appearance on Black Canada Talking this year, and she'll tell you why in a moment. But first up, let's say hello to Elle Jones. What's going on?
Hey, welcome back. What's going on? Oh, I have good news. I got into the animal summer school at Oxford University, so I'm
What?
Yeah. So
What is that all about?
it's animal ethics summer school. So
You got to explain that to me because I'm out in the woods right now.
actually just what I'm talking about, because Black people are always like animal rights are for white people, like they care about animals when they care about us.
Okay.
But actually, my new research is on like the coercive use of animals in law enforcement and white supremacy. Like dog bites are actually the biggest cause of police injury. And dogs don't consent to be used that way, right? They use horses in protests, they use dogs in prisons, they use dogs at borders. So when you actually look at the history of like African enslavement, it goes side by side with the treatment of animals, right? Literally also calling us mules, calling us dogs, so we become beastly, and that reflects the way that white supremacy treats animals as well. So I'm arguing that like animal rights and Black rights, even though white people always like present empathy for animals instead of empathy for us, like that's actually a tactic. So that's what I'm talking about. So I got into the animal ethics summer school to talk about how like animals are co-liberationists. I like animals who kill humans, like the whale that kills people at SeaWorld.
Yeah.
Like, put that whale in a prison and he fought back. So, there's
Wow.
revolutionary animals, and I'm interested in that. So that's what I'm talking about. And I get to go to Oxford. So that's exciting for me.
You get to go.
Yeah.
When is this?
In the summer. So, yeah.
Wow. And for a whole summer, you're going to
No,
be...
it's like a week.
I was hoping for. Yes. So what was the process, getting that? Like,
I actually just emailed them and I kind of jumped the waiting list because they didn't have it for 2 years because of COVID.
Right.
So the waiting list was really huge. But I just nagged them, and then finally they let me in. I think because it's all white people, honestly, Black people don't care about animal rights. So then when I was like, well, I want to talk about animals in the Black liberation movement, I think they put me forward. So I got to go in. So.
Well, you know what? Favor, you got favor, young lady. You got favor.
So that's exciting. That's one of my academic dreams. I wanted to go to animal summer school for a while. So.
Wonderful. Congratulations. And how are things in your area of the world? How are our people?
Tiring. It's the end of the year for us, so you look at my hair. I combed my hair and it's totally ridiculous, and that's the time of year it is. I was combing it out so I could do something with it, but then the show interrupted, so you're seeing
sorry
it's a ridiculous state, but
it looks fine. It looks fine on you.
It's really frizzy. I'm like, oh my god, my hair's taking up the whole screen. What is happening?
Well, frizz or no frizz, we're happy as always to have you here, so that's fantastic. Let's get Sarah Onyango up. Sarah, how's going on?
What's up? Bonjour. Je vous parle du territoire non cédé algonquin du peuple Anishinaabe. Greetings from Anishinaabe Algonquin territory here in Gatineau, Quebec. Yeah, it's that time of year for us too in Media Land. I'm just really tired and exhausted, just ready to go on vacation. I'm going on vacation. So that's why the audience will not be seeing me until sometime late in January.
Well, good for you. Well earned and well deserved vacation.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy. Your hard work, you definitely deserve a rest and peace and quiet. So
Thank you.
I'm speaking it that you're gonna come back refreshed.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. Congratulations. Enjoy your dream. Well, it is somewhat of a dream for her.
Yeah.
To get away on a vacation. So it's
no, I think the person was talking about Elle.
Oh yes, live your dream.
Was going to Oxford.
Yes, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. That's no problem. Well,
no.
That's all good. And how are things in the Ottawa-Gatineau region at the present time?
Well, it looks like Christmas markets have picked back up. So for some of the merchants, it's a good thing because last year was pretty
weak.
Bad. It was pretty bad because Amazon and them got all the money, basically. But with all of the campaigns about buy local, acheter local, etc., and the Quebec government has been very aggressive about promoting buy Quebec products and buy local. Hopefully, they'll have a better year. Yeah, we're going to be talking about
we'll get
the
to
police
it.
Brutality stuff. But no, things are settling in. Oh, our city council is now all sworn in, the new city council, and we've got 2 Black city councilors. Yay! And they're very strong sister leaders. So we're expecting to see, some movement on some files. One of them was appointed vice chair of the Société des Transports de l'Outaouais, which is the equivalent of TTC or OC Transpo for people on the other side of the river. So that, that's interesting that right away Bettina Belizaire gets, a major responsibility like that. So let's see what Gatineau is going to look like in 100 days under this new city council.
Wonderful. And next up we have Cesar. Now Cesar may have a guest with him today, so we want to see if the guest is still with Cesar. Yes.
Hi everyone. Hello Zaza. Zaza. So Mama just got back from the groceries. So Zaza is just going to be with us for the introduction. She's very chatty, as you can see. The Pan-Africanism is strong in her, and she can't wait to be commenting on the Dr. Vibe and to learn from her auntie
Next
L and Auntie
generation.
Sarah.
Next generation, legacy broadcast,
Very
legacy
good.
broadcast.
She's ready. She's like, what is it again? Behind every great lady, there's a lot of great ladies by her side.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Everything good? Everything good with you?
Yes. Yes, a lot of good things happening. I just want to mention, how can I put it? So I had been, as you know, I notably trained senior leaders of different institutions. One of the institutions that I trained, it's in French, Conseil des Écoles Catholiques du Centre-Est. So basically, the French Catholic school
board.
School board. Following my training, I was made aware earlier this week that they have adopted a recognition of indigenous genocide. And they're recognizing anti-Black racism as a statement. And of course, going forward in terms of concrete measures that notably will include training on equity, diversity, and inclusivity from a Pan-Africanist lens, from your humble, dedicated to the cause as of next year. And this was announced at the meeting that I had this week. And I had one of the very few Black school board trustees who sent me a message to really be thankful. When I say this, it's not to my glory, but it takes the work of so many of us. Everybody. Yes, Zaza, thank you.
And Zaza too. Don't forget Zaza's work.
Well, thank you for, I wasn't even thinking about that, but you're absolutely correct, Dr. Vi, because I remember, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when I first started giving conferences in high school. So 3 years ago, I've seen the despair of so many Black students in high schools who didn't have their voice heard. They were represented. They were in the room, aka we have Black students, but they were not heard. So this is for all the Zazas to come. We will be going to in that school board, in the schools of that school board as of next year. More concrete changes is to come, but it is the effort of each and every one of us, even if it's just being in the room, but forcing an acknowledgement. Now the acknowledgement, notably of anti-Black racism, will be made notably in every private and public meetings of that school board. So that's a step forward. That will come with the policies and procedures along the way.
Fantastic. Well, if you have to get Zaza off to off screen, no problem. We're cool with that. No worries. So we'll get the conversation started. What is up? That era cover, Cassint and Green Eyed baby, little baby. She thank you for your support. She's usually on the State of Things with Aisha and Jill on Saturday nights. So we got some US people watching. Excellent. Our first conversation topic today, Omicron.
Oh my goodness.
Gosh.
Oh my gosh.
What impacts? Well, Sarah has impacts. I know everyone has, and everyone we said first before we came on live, everyone has something they want to say on this. So who wants to start? Go ahead, Sarah.
So, okay.
Oh gosh.
I'm not amused at all. Because unlike the Chinese, our South African friends, whose brilliance only started to be acknowledged when the Director General of the WHO, Anthony Fauci, and all of these leaders realized that people were stigmatizing South Africa and Southern African countries the way they had done China. When word got out of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. I'm just really, really outraged. It's like, okay, so South Africa and their brilliant scientists actually were transparent. They were methodical, they were professional, and they were transparent. And what do? The first thing you do, you turn around and you slam a travel ban. Not just South Africa, the entire region. Mozambique, Angola, Malawi, Zimbabwe. I was thinking they might put Tanzania in there because it's part of the Southern African Development Community, but they didn't. Thankfully, and East Africa didn't get lumped in. And what's even more outrageous is when it turns out that this Omicron was brought to Botswana from the Netherlands by a diplomat who, whether the person was returning or whatever, it came from outside. It wasn't originally apparently manufactured on the African continent. I mean, this, again, it plays into the myth of Africa is the continent of pestilence, etc. Ebola, my God. HIV, AIDS, my God. Coronavirus, well, that was China. But Omicron, oh, that's, no. I mean, so the reaction was swift, wrong, misinformed, careless, and it now sends a very chilling message to other African countries, countries like Senegal, who also have brilliant scientists, Kenya, my country, with brilliant scientists who are very methodical and very, very responsible, because on the African continent, we have been through different pandemics and continue to go through pandemics other than coronavirus. And we have learned how to manage them, getting information out, putting public health measures in place, public education campaigns, etc., etc. We've been doing that for decades. So don't treat Africa like we're, that cousin that's always misbehaving at your party and you can't keep them in line, so you have to send them to another room and lock that up so that they don't disturb the peace. I mean, it's outrageous. And again, in a way, it's maybe a good thing, it's a blessing in disguise that this awful thing happened, because the DG of WHO and many humanitarian organizations, including Médecins Sans Frontières, have been screaming about vaccine inequity and the dangers of that this could happen, that new strains are going to develop as a result of unvaccinated people in places where the vaccine coverage is like this.
Mm-hmm.
They warned of the danger, but what did the West do? Oh, we're going on third doses. Oh, in my province in Quebec, well, we're hoarding and our people seem not to like AstraZeneca. Yeah, we're going to leave them on the shelf and let them spoil. Meanwhile, in countries like my country, in Kenya, the uptake is huge. People are crying for vaccine. A lot of them did not buy into the whole conspiracy theorist, whatever, the QAnon, the this and that. They're not interested in that. They're like, what? Medicine? Yes. Bring it. Bring it. You don't want it? Bring it. We've had presidents, African presidents, on the phone with Canada and the EU and the United States, Biden, telling them, listen, get these things here quick, because this is Omicron now. There'll be something worse later if you don't help us at least get 20, 30, 40% of people vaccinated. And another problem that's happening, I know in Kenya, that's one of the problems. So suddenly they wake up and they send huge shipments. Hello, refrigeration? You're sending vaccines that need refrigeration and we don't have the facilities for that. And, oh, by the way, we're running out of syringes. And a lot of our medical people have died of COVID or are dying or too sick. So lack of manpower, problems with distribution, with storage, and just not getting enough vaccines. So, and then, of course, all of the inconvenience to everybody, not just Africans, Canadians trying to come back from South Africa, who are left in the lurch, and once again exposing Canada's consular services and their ineptitude and complete incompetence and lack of compassion and empathy, and the airlines, the inability to coordinate quickly. I mean, come on. Anyway, let me calm myself.
Okay, so green-eyed doll baby saying it's not just Africa but all Black POC. It's always something other than Europeans that are blamed. Shake my head. I'm so tired of the narrative about us. L?
Maybe Cesar go. I want to see what Cesar is going to say.
Okay.
Well, Sister Sarah said the bulk of what I was going to say, but I don't really think we should be surprised. I think, and I have to be careful here because I'm absolutely not trying to say that South Africa should have withheld the information or should have lied about it. South Africa did the right thing. However, the world, especially the Western world, once again shines in showing racism, medical racism towards Africa. Too often, our mother continent, the continent of our ancestors, is always looked at indeed as the place of pestilence and diseases. And you don't even need to wait for Omicron, by the way, named after a Greek alphabet, as the other variants. But you don't need to wait after Omicron. You just need to go from time to time to hospitals in Canada where basically you get asked, if you are Black, that is, about whether you come from certain countries of Africa and might have been exposed to Ebola and other such, aka it's funny to be asked that when you are Black, considering how little, the small number of people that have been affected and killed by Ebola, and yet we have Western created and prone diseases that kill far more, such as notably the Spanish flu, aka influenza, that's still here 100 years later. The only thing I'd like to add, and I think the outrage has to be taken, how can I put it, very seriously. And I'll give you a very concrete example. In Israel, I don't know if everybody knows this. Israel is a country where our sisters and brothers have known some of the worst medical racism, such as the sterilization of Beta Israel. Please, my friends, my brothers and sisters, don't say Falasha. Falasha is an insult. Beta Israel, aka Ethiopian Jews. Thousands of women have been sterilized by the product Depo-Provera because in the 80s, the same Israeli government that brought in thousands of Ethiopian Jews, in the context of famine in Ethiopia, but also civil war, conflict, they brought them in the course of 3 operations called the Three Brothers Operations, aka David, Moses, and Joshua, or Solomon, I don't remember, but Operation Moise and David, bringing them in the context of the Aliyah, the return of Jews to Israel. Thousands of African women have been sterilized unknowingly because it was believed at the very top of the health minister of Israel then that these African migrants, these so-called Jews, aka people weren't sure, might be carrying HIV, AIDS. And now, about 35 to 40 years later, we have the current Israeli Minister of Aliyah, so Return to Israel, and Minister of Integration, Nina, allow me to read her name properly to honor our sister, because she is a Black woman, Nina Tamanu Shatta. This is the Israeli Minister of Aliyah and Integration. She herself called out her own government for racism against Africa, for, let's use the term that is used, for blacklisting. You understand, blacklisting is a racist term, for blacklisting Africa due to Omicron. But the thing that I really liked is that she, in the criticism of her own government, she put it out there. If Omicron had come from a Western country, and as Sister Sarah said it so well,
The
it wasn't
Netherlands.
born in Africa. It was born in Europe and brought to Africa. But as she put it so well, if Omicron had been born and been noticed and called for what it is in Europe, would that country have been banned? Would that country have been blacklisted? Because as she mentioned it, and remember, this is a Beta Israeli woman, an Ethiopian Jew who knows the stigma that came to her people back in the 80s, as I was talking about the sterilization of thousands of Black women by Depo-Provera. So absolutely, this is an ongoing recurrence of medical racism, but also of geopolitical racism. You know, I defended a thesis in 2007 on the inequalities of global relations due to racism in history and in current society. And this is, again, what we see. We see the same thing that has happened to indigenous Americans. We see the same thing that's going on all under the umbrella of white supremacy. White supremacy. So again, for our African nations, Caribbean nations, and our Black communities, time and again, it is a constant reminder, Pan-Africanism, but especially coming together, solidarity, union, and strengthening one another in order to stand up to this type of discrimination. Because let's be honest, how many African countries blocked entrance from any Western nations because of France or Italy or the USA being the epicenter of COVID? You see, this is how power relations occur. They can do to us what so few of us dare to imagine doing back to them. And when I say us and them, we live in the age of integration. We are here in these nations. I'm not born in Nigeria. I'm not born in South Africa. But whether it be Sister Sarah or me, who are African born, or whether it be Sister L or you, Brother Dr. Vibe, at this very moment, I'm telling you, we enter a hospital in Canada, we'll be looked at with a lens of, could that person might be carrying Omicron? They look a little bit dark. Allow me to stop there, but yeah.
All right. So Green-Eyed Dolby saying Native American people were sterilized years ago and they're still trying to recover from it.
Absolutely.
And also want to shout out to Dr. Tachi, who is the host of Mediascope, the livest program about media, tech, and pop culture on Wednesdays on Facebook Live, YouTube, other platforms. Don't have enough time to get to it today because I know Elle Jones has something important to say.
Oh, I don't have that much to add. I was glad that you brought up AIDS, Cesar, because I don't know if people are aware of the work of the current Black Chair of Canadian Studies. I think James Robinson Johnson Chair of Black Canadian Studies at Dalhousie, which is currently Dr. Amish Ray Dryden. And what she really works on is the blood ban and racism, and also how that crosses the homophobia. And one of the things she looked at is the same thing, that to this day, Canada continues to ban people from the majority of African countries from donating blood. And one thing she also shows is like the pictures they use on the, like, what's it called? Blood Canada. What's the name of it? You know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the
Canadian Blood Services.
Canadian Blood Services. Thank you. If you look at what the images they use on the website, like it's like an elephant, you know, like to talk about, like, you know, so they're like, oh, African blood ban, and then it's like an elephant, like a tree, like the baobab tree, like, you know, all these like extremely stereotypical, basically like clip art images of Africa. So as Cesar said, there's a long history of this, of stigmatizing. You know, the minute that something can be traced to Africa, it becomes like Africa's darkest. Remember with AIDS, they used to say the 4 H's: hemophiliacs, homosexuals, Haitians, and what was the other H? I can't remember. But, you know, so Haitians were really getting hit with that. So there's always some way in which Black people are stigmatized. So yeah, if people are interested in how this works, I know Dr. Dryden does a lot of work on this, starting with the idea of like it's a Black doctor that developed blood transfusions, but officially, like through the war and everything, they segregated the blood because they're like, well, nobody wants a blood from a Black person. So it's a Black doctor that develops it. And then the official policy of Canadian Blood Services, the Red Cross or whatever at the time, was literally to make sure that white people wouldn't get Black blood. And this persisted for quite a long time. And then you have the same bans on African countries because of the so-called, it's always the more vicious strain of the virus. In fact, Omicron is by all accounts less deadly. It's more transmissible among the young, but it's much less deadly. So it's not even clear what the mechanism is for particularly banning based on that. So I don't have much more to add, but everything that was said was good. So
yeah,
Mr. L,
go ahead.
The order H, hemophilia, HIV, Haitians, and heroin.
Oh, heroin, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think because of the inequity of the inequity is rampant in this situation, and again, the African countries are at the back of the line, and but first to blame when something's wrong.
And the irony of it all is, with all of the nonsense that goes on, especially in the United States and Canada, with anti-vaxxers protesting in front of schools and harassing parents and threatening them because they're getting their kids vaccinated, and threatening medical staff. I think it was it in New Brunswick or Manitoba, where a doctor is about to quit. They're about to lose a family doctor because she has been harassed.
Well, let's put it this way. Look at how many frontline medical workers have quit.
Yeah.
And those people aren't coming back. Many of them are not coming back. And many of them look like us. Right? And again, economic impact on that. So let's, God forbid, the numbers go up again. It's going to be worse because there's less frontline staff able to help. And again, I'm sure that everyone on this screen probably knows at least one person who looks like us who's been let go of whatever position they've had because of this.
Bottom line, get vaccinated. And if you know in your county, city, whatever, whether you're in the States or Canada, and there's vaccines that are not being used, etc., alert the authorities and let them know that some African countries really could use those vaccines.
And it blows my mind. Why haven't they got them?
Because they're being hoarded. In Canada, it's hoarding, pure and simple. They're sitting on Canada ordered way more than it needed, and the insult is Canada using the COVAX mechanism. COVAX is supposed to be for lower income countries, like the ones in Latin America, in Africa, and the Caribbean. Okay, and some in Asia, but Canada using COVAX. What's the world coming to? Anyway, yeah, I think I'm going to stop on this topic.
Okay.
I'm too riled up.
Yes, Sarah, I want you to cool out before you leave, not get so riled up. Oh, my goodness. Anyone else have anything they want to say on this one before we move into our next conversation topic?
This better not mess with animal school.
Look at the look on her face. And green-eyed doll baby saying Florida is hoarding also. But interesting about Florida, your governor is anti-vax.
But he's fully vaccinated.
Yeah, of course.
DeSantis is fully vaccinated. And he's threatening to fire teachers and school boards and teachers that are implementing public health measures for political gain.
Yeah.
Wait to kill your own base.
Agree. And she's saying he's an idiot.
I second that emotion.
Well, I actually was reading something about him this week. He wants to have his own little secret
army.
Army, yes. Did you read
paramilitary militia?
Okay, let's keep that south of the border. Yeah,
that's a whole other show.
That's another country, let alone another show.
Barbados.
Right, next up, we're going to talk about Barbados getting rid of the Queen. All three. We went from looks to now smiles. Who wants to start? Why are we all smiling? Who wants to start?
Elle.
Yeah, I'll start. So first of all, I'm like on record as like one of Canada's prime queen haters, which is really funny. When anything happens with the queen, CBC's always like, "You want to come talk about the queen?" Like when the queen was sick, they're actually like, "Do you want to come talk if the queen dies?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Do you want to get me killed?" Like, no, I'm not going on the news the day the queen dies to like talk about her. Thanks, you know.
Elle,
Yeah.
you've got American friends, so could you explain to her our relationship with the queen?
Okay, so yeah, so like many Commonwealth countries, so we're a member of the Commonwealth, which is all the countries, colonized countries that were formerly, you know, under the pink bits of the British Crown. So the Queen, like in many countries, is our head of state. So we have in Canada a Governor General who represents the Queen in Canada. We have lieutenant governors in every province who are the Queen's representative. And then, of course, which is actually quite significant, our treaty relationships with Indigenous people are actually with the Crown as well, which is one, like, I don't want to call it a complication, but something that would have to be thought about if we ever wanted to leave the monarchy, that Indigenous people actually have relationships with the Crown, like independent of Canada's as a nation's relationship with the Crown. So, yeah, the Queen is our head of state, not our prime minister. And yeah, I mean, so Barbados at the end of November officially transitioned to a republic, which means that they have the first ever Black head of state, which means it's a Black woman, actually, because that's who was in line for power. So now they have a Black woman. And I know Sarah wants to talk more about that. But they basically, and this is part of the broader movement in the Caribbean around justice for slavery and reparations. The Caribbean has been leading the world on reparations. David Comisong is the commissioner from Barbados to, what is it, the UN? Oh, he's the commissioner on reparations. They've set up like a 10-point reparation plan. So they've been doing that work. And part of that work has been pursuing actual independence. So Barbados has really like pulled the trigger on that and decided that there's no point in having the Queen as a head of state as a relic of like colonization. In addition, the Commonwealth is increasingly, whatever benefits there were to the Commonwealth are increasingly not present because of free trade agreements, right? So like Trinidad, for example, where my mom is from, we used to have like preferential banana shipments into the UK. And these were supposed to be some economic reparations, as small as they are, for what was extracted from us. But now, of course, the US has challenged a lot of those agreements under free trade. So even stuff like the kind of tariffs you used to be able to have, the kind of trade controls, that doesn't exist under the Commonwealth. So what the Commonwealth actually now in this contemporary world does for anybody when you can't even like have the economic relationship, so yeah, Barbados has moved. I obviously have been a longtime hater of the monarchy myself. On both sides of my family, actually, my dad's Welsh, so you know they also hate the Queen. You can look at all kinds of videos of the Welsh like booing, like "God save the Queen" at rugby games and stuff. So you know, both on the Trinidad side, both colonized. The UK colonized. So I'm getting feedback all of a sudden.
Yeah. What happened?
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay, you're good.
Okay,
You're
I'm good.
now.
Yeah, the UK also colonized Wales, colonized Ireland, like England, I mean, colonized Scotland, right? The genocide knows no bounds, really. Like you can spin a globe, put your finger down, and wherever you land, including the ocean, there's probably a place that the British committed some kind of massacre. And this idea that, you know, so we rightly talk about the Nazis, for example. We rightly talk about the importance of not denying the Holocaust, the impact that the Holocaust had on Jewish people, but the African Holocaust and the role of the slave trade and the role of the British royal family is completely denied. These people should not be able to walk around in public. You know, not only that, but they're sitting on our wealth. They continue to hoard many jewels. Much of our treasures, you know, is still like founding them. And there's been no accountability at all. Like Kikiu in Kenya, I'm sure, Sarah, you have things to say about this. The Mau Mau massacre, you know, what is it, 300,000 people? Obama, who was no radical, but removed the bust of Winston Churchill famously from his office because Winston Churchill oversaw that massacre as well. You know, countless famines and genocides in India. You know, my mother in her lifetime had to march around with the governor standing there on Empire Day and sing "Britons never, never will be slaves" as the Union Jack waved, right? Like in my mother's lifetime. My grandfather was a revolutionary and was actually threatened with incarceration for singing songs against the British Empire. So this is like not ancient history. This is in the lifetime of our parents and our grandparents. Yet we're supposed to pretend the Queen is just some cuddly person in a hat with her dogs and that nothing ever happened. And meanwhile, we're still living out the conflicts all over the globe, wherever you are, Israel, Palestine, Iraq, like Afghanistan. These are all places, Sri Lanka, these are all places that the British interfered. They lifted up one group of people, put them somewhere else, set them into conflict, favored people over other people, deliberately changed borders so people would fight each other. They literally called it the Great Game. And they saw the world as a chess game, and that they would move the pieces around. They were ruthless and for ultimate domination. And these people are living and sitting in palaces, sitting on our money in Canada, and we're supposed to think this is benign. And when you start talking about abolishing the monarchy, people treat like it's completely radical. But of course, how can we have any kind of political independence, whether that's our peoples in the Caribbean or Africa, or whether that's Black people living within countries like Canada, where these histories are completely buried? So I've been a long time Queen hater. Every time they have a child, I go on about how many Black babies they murdered, because it's true, you know? And getting a Black woman in there, as we saw, you know, then they got Meghan in, the lightest Black woman they could find. And what did they do to her? You know?
She's out of the kingdom.
Yeah, it took her 2 years, and she was like, I'm out, and so's Harry. Like, you know, like even on their interpersonal level, how racist they are. And we've seen what's happened to Meghan for speaking out about that. And I'm not even a huge Meghan Markle fan, but there's no doubt that, you know, her being verbal about that has made her, you know, the most hated woman in England and all of this stuff. So they have no reckoning, whether that's personally, whether that's politically, whether that's economically. So, you know, as many people are saying, like, let's catch up in the rest of the Caribbean, like time for everybody else to kick her out too. And of course, Charles was the one who went. Can you imagine having to see that face? Like, yeah, God.
But he looked very sheepish, though.
Yeah.
I have to admit. He looked kind of, what am I doing here?
And like,
they're getting rid of us.
Reparations. Like, the slave masters got paid for freeing us. They got reparations for losing their property. So when they say, oh, you can't pay reparations, Haiti have to pay reparations for getting their freedom, like the equivalent of, what is it, $800 trillion, 80% of their GDP from like 1810 to like 1947 or whatever the dates are. So it's past time for us as African people to stop settling for injustice. You know, we get truth and reconciliation. We get everybody crying court when the white people don't even show up. You know, we get, oh, don't even get the land back. Don't get your diamond mines back. They still get to live here. That's what we get. You know, every other race gets to actually have a reckoning and justice. No other race of people on earth would be expected to still have the queen in the head of our countries after everything, after enslavement, after colonization, after segregation in our schools, after walking in the back doors, after being denied, you know, everything that we had up until like the late 1960s. And we're just moving to get rid of the queen now.
Well,
so stop now, because now I'm ranting. So go ahead.
No, but it's good. It's a good background you just gave there. A lot of our African countries have been republics since the 60s, some in the 70s. But full disclaimer, I am a huge Maya Motley fan. Huge. I mean, I wish she was our prime minister in Canada and in Kenya. I mean, the leadership of that woman and just the perseverance, and the patriotism and the unapologetic commitment to the people of Barbados and to her Blackness. This woman never backs down. She never backs down. And the way she did this, I hope, like Elle said, that other Caribbean nations are watching and seeing that. Well, we'll see what happens with Barbados after, like, give it, you know, a year, 2, 5, and see how they manage themselves as quote unquote grown-ups. Because as long as they were under the tutelage of the British monarchy, they were not grown-ups. They were not fully emancipated, you know. I'm predicting that once Elizabeth dies, like dominoes, Australia is going to come back and say, look, okay, let's do this. You know, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, I'm not holding out hope. Hopefully in my lifetime, but probably not. But I have a feeling that people have been sort of waiting until she dies. And Charles is not popular. He's not. William even isn't that popular, his son. Really not, especially not after all the shenanigans with Harry, Meghan, etc. And the questioning of the monarchy and their relevance and all of that. I think a lot of people may have been revisiting that during this pandemic when you didn't really see them anywhere. What were they doing? How were they helping? They were shuttered away in their palaces and castles and whatever. And regular, their quote unquote subjects were pretty much left to their own devices to figure it out. So, yeah, I'm very happy to see this. It's time. It's the 21st century. Kings, queens, princes, whatever, that our tax dollars get to pay for, by the way. That's the thing that galls me the most. Every time there's a royal visit here, you don't even want to know how much that costs in accommodation, to fly them here, the RCMP detail, wherever they go, and then the security locally, wherever they show up, and the state dinner, and the this and that, and the... It's a lot of money that could be used for affordable housing, perhaps, or put more of it in healthcare transfers so that some of the provinces that are suffering can, get a leg up on fixing that problem. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I was up all night. I stayed up until almost 2 a.m. And I was just elated.
Cesar.
I'm very, how can I put it? Congratulations to Barbados. Congratulations to its Prime Minister. Congratulations to its first ambassador, aka Miss Rihanna.
No, she's not ambassador. She's a national hero.
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't she named ambassador?
National hero.
National hero.
National hero.
Yeah.
Miss Fenty is a national hero, and she never. I don't hide from criticizing the impact of celebrity culture and entertainment in the Black culture, but I will always be fair, and Rihanna has never dismissed her Black pride. She's always put it at the forefront. What I would say is that Barbados is, really showing the way. And Sarah actually stole one of my very good arguments. I think the decolonization of the impact of Great Britain, even beyond our Black countries, but as well when we look at Scotland and Wales, is hanging on a thread called how long will Elizabeth be alive? Because, even if you look at it as a Pan-Africanist, the Pan-African movement greatly owes a lot to Caribbean intellectuals and leaders. From its founding with such heroes as Henry Sylvester Williams from Trinidad and Tobago, but even actually right here in Canada, I think Elle knows this. The 1969 University Revolt of Sir George Williams. There you go. Sir George Williams was led notably by
West Indian students.
Yes, notably led by Frederick Kennedy, who would go back to, this is again Trinidad and Tobago, but to become Prime Minister of his land. So there is a very strong Black consciousness in the Caribbean. I don't need to remind you all of our the greatest Pan-Africanist leader of all time, Marcus Garvey. But at the same time, just to stay on Barbados, I think it's beyond time. We are in the 21st century. The Commonwealth is a British version of La France Afrique.
Oui.
It is colonization.
Oui.
It is the same as, it's less visible, but it's the same as having an American base on your nation. Is there any country that has a base in America? Does France has any base of any African country? It's the same principle from speaking the Queen's language. And I have family from the Barbados, extensive family. I have extensive Bajan family. And, there's always a stereotype about how, the slave boat coming to the Caribbean, the most docile slaves being dropped off first. And this is where you get islands like Bahamas and Barbados, aka the more civilized slaves, aka the more docile to white rule, while the most ruthless of slaves were dropped off last, aka Haitians and Jamaicans. But really, it doesn't matter at which point of the slave boat your ancestor kidnapped from Africa got dropped off. We need to cut those chains with the Western nations that enslaved and colonized us. We have to cut off those chains because indeed that's the sign of independence. To me, it's nothing against Elizabeth and the monarchy. Sister L cannot be attacked for that for one very simple reason. Outside of black people, nobody will be questioning a non-black, aka white, Asian, Arab, Jew, etc., for opposing the nation, especially the head of state, the symbolism of the oppressors of their own people. I mean, Elizabeth has been queen since 1952. My father wasn't even born. She's been queen since 1952. She can't claim, like our former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien regarding residential schools, she can't claim she didn't know. She knows the history of the crown that she puts on, aka a crown that has a lot of jewels stolen from Africa and India. So she knows. If she claims that she doesn't know, well, I'm sorry. That's pretty much 70 years of reign with a failed ignorance. Canada also has to decolonize, and there was a census, I think from Léger Marketing, very recently that said that anti-monarchy opinions are growing in Canada in terms of cutting off that link, aka we shouldn't have a governor general. And I mean, not to bring back that controversy, but as much as we can celebrate Governor General Mary Wilson, an indigenous person representing the Queen of England is an oxymoron.
Yeah.
we have to let go of these colonial attachments, which eventually link to attachments to Western imposed religions by slavery and colonization. Western, and I should have said Western and Arab religions, names, etc., etc. It's not in the logic of centering on ourselves to the point where we isolate others. But show me those non-black nations that have been colonized by black nations, that have black religions or spirituality that they follow, that non-black people will give black names to their children. I mean, we know white people love the three black people that white people love the most: Martin, Barack, and Nelson. They don't call the children Obama or Mandela or MLK. They don't. We have to cut those ties, because symbolically it plays in the minds of our children and youth in terms of ascendancy. We still look up to them. Look at how every time there's a baby born at Buckingham Palace, you have that crowd gathering and being cheerful. And I'm like, if you're black, those are the people who enslave and colonize your people. And if you're white, they also enslave and colonize your people. Why are you applauding? This is not anti-monarchy. This is historical fact. Why are you applauding? And number three, they're born in white privilege. They're at the very top. You can become rich and famous. You can discover the vaccine against COVID-19 and COVID-2000. Just because they're born in Buckingham Palace, they'll always be richer and more famous than you. No, we have to cut those ties. Those are very dangerous ties. So Barbados, you have all my support. And Jamaica also.
Come on, Jamaica.
You have
Wagwan. Come on.
The Commonwealth.
Do this.
Absolutely. We cannot have the land that birthed our great leader Marcus Garvey, the land of Nani of the Maroons.
Yeah.
still being technically under colonization. The land of Bob Marley, Jamaica. I mean, every black nation has such symbolism, and we're not taking any shine away from Barbados, but every black nation has such symbolism, has contributed. Every black nation has put a little chip forward in the advancement of the black cause. We cannot keep these chains of colonization. Last thing that I will say, as we're speaking about British colonization, put yourself in my place. Me, Cesar, born in the colonial enclave called Cameroon. And I think I've explained before how the name of Cameroon comes from Camaros, Rio dos Camaroes, named by the Portuguese, which means river of big shrimps, aka Cameroonians in Brazil in 2016 getting made fun of because they don't speak Portuguese. They didn't know. Yet, after World War II, after World War One, the League of Nations, so the ancestor of the United Nations, put Cameroon not under colonization, under mandate of France and Britain. That was in 1918. 100 years later, as we are speaking today, it is with great sadness, embarrassment, but you see the impact of colonization in my birth colonial enclave of Cameroon. You literally have an opposite situation to Canada, where in Canada you pretty much have 3/4 Anglophone, 1/4 Francophone. In Cameroon, it's the reverse: 3/4 Francophone, 1/4 Anglophone. And in the Anglophone part of the country, we have a terrorist organization that wants to claim a separate country called Ambazonia in the basis of language, and they kill people. They notably kill children because the main claim is that they're not getting equal services to the Francophone part, to the Francophone majority. So yes, they do have a legitimate claim regarding services, but to use that as a basis of difference, aka we speak English, they speak French, and to go kill people. Can you imagine white people killing themselves over whether or not these people speak Lingala, those people speak Zulu? We can't imagine that. Can you imagine white people killing themselves because these white people kill Bambara, or those other people speak Wolof or Somali? Yet in the country I'm born in, that's why I say I don't like to say Cameroon is a country. It's a colonial enclave. You have people who look like me, darker than me, killing other people because they are Anglophones, aka a colonial language, and they feel they don't get the proper services compared to those who are Francophones, aka those who were colonized by the French. This is what colonization does 100 years later. We have to cut those links to colonization. It's terrible. It's terrible.
One note, since you mentioned Mandela, it's the anniversary of his passing today, December 5th. Yes.
Rest in peace.
And another thing, Elizabeth II became queen in my country, in Kenya. Thought I'd throw out that trivia.
Well, before we move on to our next conversation piece, I have a pop quiz for all three of you. What family is the biggest landowner in the world?
It has to be the British.
The Queen.
And yes,
she's the biggest landowner in the world.
And the reason I say that is that the saying was, the sun rises in the west. The sun rises in the west, but sets in the east. But the British Empire is on the four corners.
Sarah, you're rude. You're rude.
Did she buy that? And where did she buy it? And where did she get the loan to acquire?
Okay, such? Well, if it was bought, it wasn't.
With what money?
Thank
because
you.
They all don't pay taxes, or not a lot of taxes.
I'm sure a lot of it was either inheritance or a lot of it. I'm not saying. I'm just saying didn't come out of her pocket.
Inherited from someone who acquired that land. How?
From somebody else, by force, probably. Enough said.
Just
all
saying.
Right. All right.
One day I will have to tell you one of the things that upset me the most about the British monarchy. I'm not going to take the time to do that because that will take too much of our time. but I will have to tell you about what the British monarchy has done to our people, our indigenous black people on the island of Vanuatu. It is a terrible story. How terrible it is? When even Richard Dawkins is stunned. Richard Dawkins, this is a famous white man, blah, blah, blah. When even he is like, wow,
Okay.
he's not even black. So imagine.
We'll get to it. Next up, we've got more police brutality in Quebec. We talked about this last conversation. It seems that there's more stuff going on.
Well, I don't really feel like talking that much about it. Probably
Okay.
Cesar will say, because I live in Quebec, so that's what we've been hearing lately a lot. This is happening in Quebec City now. Quebec City is really the more conservative part, and Quebec City and the areas surrounding that's where you're going to get more of those anti-vaxxer types. You're going to get more of the anti-Muslim sentiment. That's where there was that terrorist attack by that white guy that went and shot up people in that mosque, and on and on and on. So these are a group of police officers who apparently get their jollies off of roughing up people when they get calls, when they're called for disturbances, etc. But it turns out that in this particular instance, this happened. Was it? The video came out last week. I'm not sure when the incidents actually happened, and it was when people are leaving the bar, and obviously there's always going to be people sort of hanging around and making lots of noise, and they don't want to go home, etc. Apparently, somebody called the police, and the owner of the establishment later said, I didn't call them to come do this. I didn't call them. They just showed up. They showed up out of nowhere. They started kicking and pushing. Next thing I know, this young man, I believe he's of Burundian descent, was thrown to the floor, snow in his face, beat up, then handcuffed, then detained. And it turns out the guy who filmed what happened, or the guy who is heard on the tape telling off police, he got arrested the next day or 2 days later. Yes, because he apparently was wanted on sexual assault charges.
Oh my gosh.
And illegal possession of a firearm, which he very stupidly was exhibiting on Snapchat or Instagram or some on social media. He was doing the whole gang thug thing, and so it went from the victim, who happened to be with that guy and wasn't necessarily, committing a crime, to, these black criminal people, and what was that young man doing hanging around with someone like that and whatever. It doesn't matter. How do you, three of you, come snatch up the skinny guy and then throw him on there, then punch him in the face, and then try and pass it off as a lawful arrest when you weren't even called to the place? And then after that, other people who had been attacked by the same officers started publishing all these videos, and is it Sécurité du Québec, which is the provincial police?
SQ.
Yeah, they figured out that, there's a pattern. These guys made a habit of doing this. Okay, suspension with pay. Where is the accountability? And so that's what people are asking. And I do believe the Burundians have been mobilizing, and that there was a protest this weekend in support of the young man and his family. And I think there's going to be some court action around this.
Excellent. Cesar, you wanted to add anything on this?
The only thing I will add is pretty much that the mistreatment that's done to one of us is done to all of us. Even as I have the privilege of notably training police, and I've trained entire police forces in cities in Canada, but Quebec City is like so many other cities, aka not a single black cop, and yet they do have black residents. Deep issues of systemic racism, of white privilege, and of course, white supremacy that need to be addressed into a police service that acts far more like a police force. And as such, those who are part of marginalized communities, aka indigenous and blacks, LGBTQ, women, and notably sex workers, and poor people will suffer the brunt of it. What happened to this young brother, aka including being hit and having snow thrown in his face while he was handcuffed and lying down, basically had him straight on a path to become the next George Floyd. We must say it. Milwaukee is everywhere. Minneapolis, what happened to George Floyd can happen to any of us, just as what happened to our sisters, Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, can happen to any of our sisters. Last thing I will also mention is simply this. This happens in the same Quebec, aka under leadership of the CAQ, Coalition Avenir Québec, so Coalition for the Future of Quebec, that refuses to recognize systemic racism, despite X amount of reports, despite X amount of testimonies towards Black people, just as Indigenous people. Remember the lady Joyce Echaquan of last year who died in the hospital. Let's not be hypocrite. This is, and when I say let's not be, Black people and Indigenous people are not hypocritical about this. It's those who are white, majority of those who are white, not all, but majority of those who are white who are hypocrite about this. I fear it will have to get worse before things start to improve.
Ouch. That's not
Yeah.
good.
And I mean, when we consider that the major race relations organizations in Quebec are largely run by ex-cops, like I can't barely think of an activist in Quebec who's like doing race that is, and I'm not throwing shade on those people. I mean, for example, I know Will Prosper, like I'm not critiquing him in particular, but I'm just saying that that's what you basically have to have a race relations like foundation in Montreal is like we better have a Black person who is a cop at the head, because then maybe we might get a seat at the table, right? So I mean, I just got some calls from Montreal, and that's like better than Quebec City, but they were talking about like how badly they need to organize, you know, and like there's really so little organizing that's able to be done because they're just dealing with such intense anti-Blackness. I mean, remember when PK Subban was playing there and people like wore blackface to games, you know, like I always think Nova Scotia is backwards. Like we often call Nova Scotia the deep south of Canada and the Mississippi of the north, but I think Quebec's a whole other creature when it.
Oh, you know what they call Quebec? The Alabama of Canada. For real, that's what happened earlier this year. I don't remember who it was who said
University
it.
professor.
Le Québec, c'est l'Alabama du Nord, and our premier jumped out. He was red faced and ranting. He was outraged. He was rah, rah, rah. And we don't have systemic racism. How can you call us backwards? And I'm like, oh, so you're saying Alabama is backwards? Okay. Well, you insult a U.S. state, thank you, and then you deny systemic racism. I mean, yeah, some parts of Quebec, you would think you are somewhere in the South with a French accent.
And I mean, they always say like pure land isn't like racist, but how can you talk about purity and
pure land is white?
Racist?
It's code what I mean, for right? White.
So they all say, oh, it's nothing to do with race. It has to do with Quebec.
It has everything to do with
any purity politics. The minute you start talking about purity, you know, what are you talking about? This racial politics. Very quickly, speaking of the deep south of Canada, aka Halifax, Nova Scotia, where I am, there's a case going on. Speaking of police, so Kayla Borden, I wrote this story and I can't even remember when this was. Last year, I think. She got just like they were looking for a white man in a Honda, and she was like a white man in like a white Honda, and she's like driving a black car, and she's a black woman, and they pulled her over, you know, at gunpoint, like multiple cops pulled her out of her car, all of this stuff. So she's obviously pursuing a police complaint, and they've tried to subpoena the police chief. They're like, this is racial, and we want the police chief to speak about the impact of racism in the force. And like, he made a public apology on racism. So obviously he knows the force is racist, and we want him to testify to that. And he's refusing to answer the subpoena.
Wow.
So our police chief is refusing to go to, and then they tried to say that the board could cancel the subpoena, like the review board, and her lawyer's like, no, only a judge can cancel a subpoena. Like, you know, Like you can't act extrajudicially, I can't say the word extrajudicially. I can't say it. And then very quickly, I just found this story. Judge tosses Peel cop's gun case over racial profiling. It's the 4th time a judge has rejected the officer's evidence. 4th time in 4 years. I can't talk today. I'm like, 4th time. So this guy is named Constable Daryl Corona. Let's name him. And literally every year since like 2017, he's had cases thrown out for inappropriately racially profiling, or like, so in this case, you know, he illegally searched somebody. So, you know, like just stopping Black youth and then illegally searching them, finding guns, finding drugs, and then being thrown out in court. And he has not yet been sanctioned. So how many tries do you get as a cop when, like, you know, and not even the misconduct part. So there's a whole part of he's like out here racially profiling, like being found guilty of inappropriately questioning people, all this stuff. But also, of course, like Crowns want to make cases, and you have a cop that you're like losing all your cases because this dude is out here out of control. And he's still out here. So, yeah, I mean.
Wow.
Oh, and also Hamilton. That's the last thing. The 6 Black youth that were arrested in Hamilton. So this is during encampment clearing. So what's been going on across Canada with the cops coming in and destroying shelters and tents. And a lot of the young Black people have been helping with like that defense and like, you know, making sure people have food and coming by and helping people. And a bunch of them got arrested in Hamilton, including Sarah Jama, who is in a wheelchair.
Sarah Jama got arrested?
Yeah. Sarah Jama got arrested. And guess what they accused her of? I shouldn't laugh because it's shameless. They said she assaulted an officer.
She's
come on, hold on.
She's in a wheelchair.
Hold on.
How shameless these people are. And I'm not saying that, I'm not infantilizing people with disabilities here. Like, I'm not doing the thing where like, oh, somebody's in a wheelchair. They're not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like legitimately this woman is in a wheelchair. How is she going to assault you? They grabbed her and grabbed her arms and like assaulted her. And now like imagine like the lack of shame to say a woman in a wheelchair threatened you. So yeah, Sarah Jama got arrested. And like Arawa Muhammad and like, yeah, 6 youth. So
Sarah, do you want to leave for your holiday now?
Yeah.
For vacation now?
Yeah. I mean, on the outrage meter, like I'm way past, that red zone where your thermometer just bursts because you're so
in a wheelchair. Like,
oh my gosh.
And I'm sure they claim like it's a motorized vehicle or whatever. Like, they have no shame. You think as a man, like, aren't you a big man? You're a cop, you know, you have your gun on your waist and you have to attack. So you're attacking a woman in a wheelchair, which is like disgusting. And then you're saying that she victimized you? Anyway,
we need Benjamin Crump up here. Can Benjamin Crump open several offices up here?
I'm not gonna go there. I have mixed comments on that individual. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I think I know what they are, but anyway.
Yeah, I have mixed comments on B. Crump, but that's him and what's his
Sean
name?
King.
There's a list. There's a list. There's a list. Yeah. What's the guy on MSNBC? What's his name? I can't. Forget it. That's a whole other conversation topic with me. That's a whole other conversation topic. Okay. Anyone else want to add before we go on to our last conversation piece? No. All right. So it is holiday season, but we have to focus on Black consumerism and mental health during the holiday season, because the holiday season is not a happy time for everybody. And especially what the increased challenges we as a people have endured over the last 16 to 18 months has not made it, can make this not a great time. An increase, not a great time. Who would like to start with this comments on our last conversation topic? Sarah?
Yeah. I think there needs to be sort of a rethink. And I think Kwanzaa needs to take up way more space than it does, because Kwanzaa centers us as Black people in our actual values. And when, there's different elements of Kwanzaa, and one of the elements is zawadi, Zawadi is gifts, right? And the gifts mostly are going to be handmade gifts and gifts that have actual, like, personal meaning. And here in Ottawa, when we have Kwanzaa, it's always products from Black businesses and cultural products that reflect our culture to really ground us. People need to, calm themselves down and take a breath and get off social media, get off Instagram, and stop looking at all of these rich celebrities. Oh, I got this spanking brand new car that costs more than 3 houses you could ever wish to own, or whatever. Look at me with this lavish vacation, or whatever. We need to unplug from all of that and focus back on our community and our families and our values that actually have kept us going all this time, from slavery to now. There's a reason Black people have survived all of these indignities that continue, right? And that has a lot to do with the resilience that comes from centering yourself and grounding yourself in your actual core values. And consumerism is not it. Amazon is not it. Walmart is not it. The dollar store is not it. It's not. We need to take this pressure off ourselves. It's needless pressure. And unfortunately, many of us have bought into it to the point where we have drugged our kids. We have drugged our kids with this consumerism. And then we complain that, oh my God, I can't afford. Junior wants this latest cell phone and this and this. Yeah, but, where did he learn this consumerism? We really, especially now in this pandemic, when everybody is online ordering all kinds of things they don't necessarily need from Amazon, we need to, take a breath and unplug. Put down the plastic. Put down that card. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'll go very quickly. My mother being Caribbean, and this actually has caused a lot of family tension in families across the diaspora too. So when my sister went to New York, because we have New York family, they actually said, like, we always hated you guys in Trinidad because, like, our mothers were scrubbing floors, like working as nannies, and then trying to pack up these big boxes to send to Trinidad so they could look like they were making it. And we weren't getting anything at Christmas. So they're like, we were going out gifts so that basically, the people in Trinidad, because you'd hear, oh, you have these wealthy cousins in the States, and they weren't wealthy. They were maids, they were nannies, they were, doing that, but they were, trying to send everything back. And it's actually caused like a lot of tensions within families as well, where, that family was like, yeah, you guys got all our money and we didn't have anything. Like, we're sitting here, but our mother's like trying to front back to Trinidad, like she's made it, So that's also been a thing across our diaspora, like how much money we have to send back to look like things are okay, when we're actually struggling, right? And of course, we do the really beautiful thing where we support our families no matter what. Like, of course, we send our money around, but, when you have to send money you don't have so that you can pretend you have like products, that's a whole different thing. My mother, of course, is the anti-consumer, like, God almighty, don't say you need something within 6 weeks of Christmas, like a tampon or soap, because it will show up wrapped in your Christmas present. You're like God help you if you like need to wash yourself, and you're like, oh, can we get more soap? You'll have to wait till Christmas. So, my mother does not consume at all. The last thing I'll say is that let's also not buy carceral toys. Like, let's not be buying like gun toys and like cop Lego and like military Lego and stuff like that. The Playmobil and stuff like that. I think we need to be thinking about ideologically how white supremacy targets our children. And so many of these products glorify shooting Muslim people, like, glorify war, glorify police, all of these things that are really harmful to us. I don't want my child playing with a model prison, in like the Playmobil prison set. Like, what does that teach my child, And it's really difficult when those are some of the toys that people want, like the Paw Patrol cop dog and stuff like that. So I think we also need to think about what is the message behind consumerism. Like, our children are literally consuming white supremacy through these things, and we need to like look at So beyond like there's the don't go broke, focus on love, and also think about what these toys are. Like think about, and then you have like some 13-year-old black girl, like she want to read Twilight, and you're like, that's the whitest thing you could read, so all this stuff is sending messages to our children about who they are, what the cool books are, what the cool this is. And like most of this stuff isn't us, and like it takes you a long time to emerge as a youth, like just from seeing. I remember somebody telling me I must be a lesbian when I was like 13 because I didn't think like some white dude was hot, like, so then you're like coerced into like thinking these boy bands are cute, and like they're never black. And like, so all this stuff that comes to teach you out of your culture, that you want the hair that the Barbie doll has, and you want the clothes that this has, and you want Kylie's makeup, and none of it's us. And so like we're putting our money like all these other places everywhere but our community, and what are we bringing into our homes but harmful messages that ultimately glorify other people, teach little black girls that they want to look like the long-haired white girl and not like themselves, teach our kids that the police and war is good and that's a source of power. I always tell this story of how I ended up going on this American like nuclear aircraft carrier. It's a long story, it's in my book. And like despite being like the person who protests the military, when you see that stuff, it's like GI Joe, and you can't help but it be cool. Like you're like, oh my god, like I could sit in this helicopter, like it's like toys. But this was an active aircraft carrier. They show you the planes and they have bombs on them, and each bomb represents like 100 kills. And you're seeing like the painted fuselage, and that's like people in the Middle East that they murdered, but it's cool because it looks like GI Joe, and you can't help but be like brainwashed by that. So we really have to think about what that means. Like they start on this imperial project young, so we also have to like take a stand on what we're bringing into our homes. And that's the last I'll say there. And take it away, Cesar.
What I will say, first of all, I hope at least for the next two shows, so 2 weeks and 4 weeks, we can come back on this topic in terms of Black consumerism and Black mental health in the context of the holidays, because mainly two things that I need to start with. And very much as a continuation of what my sisters Sarah and Elle were saying, we are a community, a race that is very often spoken of in terms of poverty, in terms of money, but our real poverty is in our minds. As our great leader Bantu Biko said, the most potent weapon of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And as Sister Elle was just saying, we participate by some type of pressures, by some type of jealousies, by some types of social medias, see what I got, to our own oppression. Because what do we tend to do? We tend to enrich the same white supremacists who will be continuing racism, notably systemic racism against our people. I am absolutely not saying you cannot buy a doll to your daughter or your son, but make that effort to get a black doll, a mixed doll, a doll that has those African/black features. Dare to boycott those brands. Do not go buy things that will reinforce the oppression. So that's on the economic side, because you know what happens during the holiday time? The same people that tend to spend a lot to impress others are the same ones who complain in January and February that they're broke. Don't go get broke over holidays. The real spirit of the holidays, the real spirit, such as, and that's what Sister Sarah was saying, we don't need Christmas. You know my views about Christianity, Islam, and religion in Black communities. We need Kwanzaa. We need the unity, from unity to faith in our community. That's what we need. Because when we fail at this economical part, what tends to worsen? It's our mental health. Our mental health of children going to schools feeling like they're not gifted as much as their friends, because they cannot see and appreciate the hard work that their parents are having to put home, sometimes working 2 or 3 jobs in the context of COVID, being in the front line and risking infection. in order to pay the electricity, put food in the fridge, and keep the roof over the head. The mental health that gets even worsened by the comparisons that come from going to church and aka who's dressed harder than the next person, but also in terms of that very mentality, which it sounds good on the surface, but it's actually very bad the deeper you dive. New year, new me. There's no new year, new you. It's the habits that you embrace. We have to be very careful because this time of the year is a time of the day is a time of the year that for all communities. So this is not exclusive to Black communities, but as a Pan-Africanist and for all of us for this show, we focus on the Black community. It's a very dangerous time of the year because many of our people become broke. They become broke. They don't see that they're broke because now they're like, oh, I gotta buy for Railway, for Junior, for Keisha, and for XYZ down the list. Buy according to your means and dare to say no, and that you can't. Dare to do it because don't buy thinking of the holidays in December. Think about the rent or mortgage in February and March. Think about the family in the Caribbean and in Africa that may have a hard time and that might need that $50 or $100 or $200. You don't need another big flat screen TV. The PS5, you can't wait like me. I can buy 10 PS5 right now, but I don't. I buy them 2, 3, 5 years after they come out when they get very cheap. You don't need to. Let us dare to say no. Let us dare to say I can't. It's very, very important. Our community need to hear this. They need to hear this because this is a time of the year when food banks see an increase of Black people in shame, hiding. But we're going to go back to the families and to the church, fronting like the dollar is flowing so easily. No. My people, 2021, COVID, Black consciousness, Pan-Africanism. We can't say Black Lives Matter and treat the Black dollar like it's meaningless. We have to be very careful. So Black consumerism. Consumerism is what I call the second cancer of the Black psyche. The second cancer, because the Black community is that community in which the dollar stays the least longest. It comes in and goes out so fast to other communities. This time of the year, as if it's not cold enough and you got to think about paying the heat. Even if there's a how do you call that, eviction freeze, that ends what, in April. My brothers and sisters, please, I beg of you, because as a community leader, as a Black man, and now in my role since this year, a Black father, I already hear of stories. Of sisters and brothers who are struggling. As Sister Sarah said, we need more Kwanzaa. We need more Umoja, unity, all the way to more Imani, faith. We need more of that. Please think about your money and think about your mental health. Dare to say no and dare to say, I'm sorry, I can't. There is no shame. There is no stigma.
On that
Buy
note,
Black every time. If you have to buy.
We're gonna close it out. Some quick final words from Sarah, because we will not be seeing you till the new year. Any final words? First of all, thank you for becoming part of the family. Appreciate everything, your passion, your caring, your intelligence, and your legacy building. I want to wish you a very great vacation. And if you can touch base from over there with us, I wouldn't even mind that either. But that's
I might.
Yeah. So, but any final words? We're going to miss you, but it's a well-deserved rest.
Well, no, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this platform. I do recognize my privilege There are a lot of voices we're not hearing in platforms like these. And I just hope everybody remembers to be kind to themselves and be kind to people around you. Get off Twitter. Stop ranting against people on there. Stop hating. Like, just stop it. Just stop and focus on the people outside of the Twitterverse, outside of this digital universe. The people who are in your life, the real people, they need your attention. Look out for them and spend more time with them and appreciate the time that you have together. And of course, don't overspend. But I wish everybody well, and I look forward to 2022.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And also remember, as always, give yourself grace. I'm going to do a quick 45 seconds in regards to our last conversation topic. Black people, the greatest gift I would like you to give each other is, why don't you have a family meeting during the holiday season and say, what gift can we as a family give each other to build a legacy? You don't necessarily have to buy anything. The investment of time. And we're going to get into this conversation more in the new year, but I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. Many, many Black people suffer from one of these three things, or a combination: trauma, repetition, and symbolism. Symbolism has come up here, and we talked about the trauma. The greatest wealth we have as a people is in our own darn family, people. That is where our greatest wealth is. So if we can't get our families right, and we're not spending on investing in our own family, you think we got a hard road ahead? You want to give up before we even get started if we don't do that. So that's what I'm wishing to you during the holiday season. Invest time in your family. Find out, work together on how you can create a legacy so that when future holiday seasons come, you can give money away to your family so they can become better without spending on these things that will be useless in 30 days. What about buying people a book? I'll give you two books recommended: Black Labor, White Wealth and Powernomics, both written by Dr. Claude Anderson. If you want real wealth and if you want to be rich with gifts, buy a book. Give it away to somebody, or buy a book for yourself and read it. Give that gift to yourself. Say, how can I be better for myself and through myself for my people? I'll leave it at that. So, everyone, thank you so much. It's always great to have you. Cesar, thank you with your executive producer. And on the side, we will be back. I know we're going to do at least one or two more roundtables before the end of the year. I'd like to thank everyone who watched us live and also from the United States. Thank you so much. From the U.S. It's appreciated, not take it for granted. And as always, I want to close out with this. Oh, make it quick, Cesar, because our producer's going to leave.
5 seconds. Big shout out to David in the chat. Some of my supporters from France.
Yes.
You have to think about the fact that there's 6 hours ahead. So for him, it's midnight and a half. So
appreciate you taking the time.
And good luck to them with the presidential elections with that crazy guy, Zemmour.
And someone in the comments made another great suggestion. Any books, another great book suggestion, anything by Dr. Amos Wilson.
Nice.
So there we go. All right, we'll close it off. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourself grace. You can catch me throughout the week on the Morning Vibe, 9 a.m. on Monday and Friday mornings, and also Saturday evenings with Jill and Aisha, State of Things, and other things in between. And if you are up to it, please follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook and on YouTube, preferably YouTube, and you get notified where more epic conversations are going to have happen. Thank you to BIA Media. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. And remember, walk good.
Welcome to BIA, Canada's top black media provider. Whether you're looking for shows on fashion, art, music, or simple lifestyle, we bring you the best content the black community in Canada has to offer and so much more. And better yet, do you have an idea for a project you'd like us to help you with? We provide equipment, studio, and office space, as well as a team of dedicated individuals to help you bring those ideas to life. So don't wait. Check out our new website at biamedia.ca for more information on how to contact us and start creating today. BIA Media, your way.